a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart. We begin this busy hour with breaking news from the Middle East, where Israel carried out its deadliest attack on Gaza in months, shattering the U.S. negotiated ceasefire. Israeli forces unleashing massive airstrikes overnight, leaving more than 400 people dead. That, according to the Hamas-run health ministry in the region. Israeli officials say the fighting will continue until all hostages in Gaza are released. The White House said it was consulted on the attack, which came days after the U.S. launched massive strikes on Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen.
And as President Trump has made it clear, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America, will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose.
Joining us now, NBC's Matt Bradley, live in Tel Aviv. Matt, good morning. What are we learning about the sheer scale of these attacks?
Well, as you mentioned, Jose, 400 people or more than 400 people have been killed. This, according to the health ministry in the Gaza Strip, which is ruled by Hamas. But I have some more details of the breakdowns of the demographics of those casualty figures. We heard from the Director General of the Government Media Office in the Gaza Strip, which again is ruled by Hamas. But he said 174 children were among those dead, 89 women, and 32 elderly people. He mentioned that 73% of the total number of dead are either women, children, or elderly people. So when we're talking about the Israelis attacking Hamas targets, and they've made this clear from the beginning, this pre-dawn overnight attack, they said that they were targeting Hamas leaders. Actually, mid-level leaders was one of the things that they said that they were focusing on in this round of airstrikes, as well as Hamas infrastructure. It looks as though, according to officials in the Gaza Strip, that this has, as we've been seeing consistently, the burden has been carried by civilians in the Gaza Strip so far. Now, Jose, this looks like it's just the beginning. There's a determination here among the leadership and among the rank and file in the military. We've heard from the defense minister saying that this is just the beginning. And now it looks as though Netanyahu, the prime minister, his far-right cabinet has now been reconstituted. Those far-right ministers who had left the cabinet in protest, at least one of them, because of this peace deal that was inked back in January, negotiated by the U.S., they have rejoined the cabinet. So we're seeing that those fissures that were created by the treaty now repairing themselves as Israel is going back to war. It seems like there's a determination in the government to continue punishing Hamas, and in doing so, a lot of civilians in the Gaza Strip. Jose?
Yeah, I mean, and Matt, it just seems as though these different phases that were supposed to be carried out when this ceasefire was agreed upon simply never happened. And so what is the impact of that with what we could be expecting going forward?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jose. When we're talking about these phases, this was a deal that was signed in late January, that it was a three-phase agreement. Now, the Hamas leadership had said that they are hoping to negotiate, as were the terms of this treaty as it was signed, towards a second phase. Now, the first phase expired on March 1st, and Israel so far had shown no good faith effort in any of their diplomacy to try to move from the first phase to the second phase. There were supposed to be negotiations that started weeks before the end of the first phase to go into that second phase. Now, what's the difference? The first phase was supposed to see swaps between hostages in the Gaza Strip and Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. That happened. There were quite a lot of hiccups during that process, but that really went forward, even though there was still quite a bit of violence in the Gaza Strip. More than 160 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip between the time when that treaty came into effect and this morning's new return to fighting. But there was no real effort to move to the second phase of the deal. Instead, the Israelis sought, with the help of Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, to try to extend the first phase of that deal passed through the holy month of Ramadan for Muslims and through Passover, putting it into mid-April for the end of that first phase. Hamas had refused to do that. Hamas had actually said that they would be willing to release all of the remaining hostages as long as they saw the end of Israel's offensive in the Gaza Strip. Israeli government leaders said that they are not going to wait for that. They're not going to agree to those terms, and instead, they decided early this morning to renew the fighting. Jose.
Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv, thank you so very much. And we turn now to another breaking story unfolding this morning. Right now, President Trump is holding a high-stakes